future. I ask each of you to open your Zoom group chat. It is a feature that is available to everyone so that if and when you have questions this evening for Women Exceeding or for Xavier and Xavier, please do not hesitate to type your message in that group chat. So we'll go ahead and pull that up together. And it looks like this. So to everyone, how are you doing? Just like that. Hit enter, and we will all see your group chat questions. The next feature I'd like to talk about is to help us better understand you, our audience. So we ask that you complete a short poll. I will open the poll now. Please take a moment to complete the poll. While you're completing that poll, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our partners who are joining us this evening and about what we do at Women Exceeding. Our partners joining us this evening are Xavier Raglin and Xavier Malveaux, a father-daughter duo from the great city of Houston, Texas. Xavier is a medical device sales representative, and Xavier is an entrepreneur. A little bit about Women Exceeding and what we do. Our programs and mission revolve around 4 pillars. Those pillars are mentorship, education, networking, and business development. We assist women seeking personal and professional development through various initiatives that encourage, inspire, and empower. Our agenda for this evening is simple and sweet. Oh, we got a question about the poll. It should be, it looks a little bit like this, and you should be able to access it. If you go to the top of your page, you see where my mouse is? There should be a drop down, and right in the middle it should say poll. If you don't see it, we will work on it in the background so we can get you guys access to it. For our agenda, again, short and sweet, we're going to have our interactive discussion with Xavier and Xavier, followed by recap and questions. Remember, you can use this group chat feature here throughout the interactive discussion, and I will work to incorporate your questions into the discussion. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our father-daughter duo and partners, Xavier and Xavier. Get them on the screen here for you. I want to make them bigger. Let's see. All right. Hi, Xavier. Hi, Xavier.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you two doing?
I am great.
Awesome. How you guys doing today?
We are doing great. Women Exceeding is so happy to have you. So thank you for partnering with us to share this incredible information and experience.
No, can you guys see us?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Awesome.
Let's start off by learning a little bit more about you two. If you could tell us about yourself and tell us, how did you get started with real estate investing?
Okay, I'll start off.
Absolutely.
My name is Xavier. I'm born and raised in Houston, Texas, and I've always had the dream of having a multi-million-dollar net worth. So to do that, I first zeroed out my debt. And about 3 years ago, I've made my final payment on my student loan. And then once I zeroed out my debt, I then started saving to buy my first investment property. And now I'm on my second investment property. And throughout that whole process, my dad here has mentored me, whom I'm actually named after. And I'll just let him talk about himself.
Awesome. Hello, you guys. My name is Xavier Malveaux. I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm the youngest of 8. I'm a force entrepreneur. I have a company called Access Security Services here in Houston, Texas. We joined hands together to make this dream come true for my daughter and make her life a little bit easier.
Well, thank you for sharing a little bit more about you guys so we can understand where your story comes from. If you could, we know that there are 3 methods of investment strategy that you use, which are fix and flip, commercial, and multifamily. If you could tell us about each of those 3 methods, and then which of those 3 have you had the most success with?
Okay.
Okay.
Your property.
So for my personal experience, I've had success with fix and flip. And with doing that in Houston, we had experienced a Hurricane Harvey. So we were able to find a decent price on a home here in Houston. And then it took a few months to renovate it and make it appropriate to put back on the market. And once we did that, we profited about $50,000 to $60,000 on that property. And we took those profits and wrote it into the next home, which is also a flood home that we're fixing up to sell.
All right. And that's a little bit about the residential, but now that we have several residential properties, now we're gearing up toward commercial property, commercial real estate. We recently purchased 10 acres here a couple of years ago, and it really was on the, if you will, foreclosure list. And we purchased it for, I guess, under $200,000 at that time, but now the property is worth well over $1 million. Now we're in the process of redeveloping the property to create a wedding venue and outdoor, indoor swimming facility on it.
Wow, that's incredible. Of the many ventures that you guys have taken on with real estate investment, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've made in your first year at Xavier? Your dad's been in the game a little bit longer. What are some of those biggest mistakes you've made so that we can learn from those in our journey?
That's actually a really great question. And fortunately, I've had the beauty of having a mentor to minimize those mistakes. But I have learned a lot. So, for instance, the time piece. So, you see HGTV, and those buyers, they buy a house, they renovate a house, and they put it back on the market within 30 minutes. So that's not reality. So I definitely learned that it is time consuming. So definitely be patient in choosing the right contracting team, as well as a great realtor to sell the property for you. The second piece is once you're finished with that investment home, it doesn't sell itself. Just because you stick a for sale sign in the front doesn't mean it's going to sell. So definitely marketing the property so that it can sell fast.
And myself, as I told you, one of the biggest pieces of the pie is make sure you get a contract agreement, whether it's your family member, your daughter, whomever. And we have to have a contract agreement. I went to an agreement with a restaurant, and it was several investors in that agreement that I was not aware of. And really, the agreement that we had was supposed to be 10 investors, but turned out it was 20. So make sure you guys get an agreement in place and make sure the finances are also in place.
It can cost you a lot of money, yes, is what he's trying to say.
Yes.
So let's talk about that for a little bit. I'm going to back it up for those of us who have little to no real estate experience and maybe haven't gone into business with anyone before. You talked a little bit about setting up contracts with partners. You guys are lucky that you have a family contract, so the person that you're working with you can trust. But what would that look like if somebody were to say, I want to get started, maybe I don't have quite enough money yet on hand to do this by myself? How do I go about collaborating with others, and how do I set that up? Like, is it a written contract? Is it a handshake? Is this an LLC? What does that look like for those of us who have no idea where to start?
Okay. Well, initially it is a handshake, but before you exchange any finances, you have to get a written agreement for sure, because life is not promised to us tomorrow. So you have to get a written agreement and itemize all details on your contract, the price, the portion that you put in, the total cost of the property, but you have to get a written agreement.
Who types that up, the written agreement?
Well, we have a professional legal team that does all of that.
Okay.
Absolutely. And for those of you out there who are listening, if you don't have a professional legal team, you can go to LegalZoom. LegalZoom is a website you can go to online and pay for those types of services. I do want to say that we have a couple of questions from Shayla through our group chat. Shayla, I want to let you know I'm going to incorporate your questions into our interview. The next question that we have on the list is, what are specific things that you look for when you're touring a property to purchase? How do you do a market analysis? And that ties into Shayla's question of, how do you measure and assess the risk, right, when you're deciding on what you're going to invest in?
Well, yeah, so definitely looking at the potential of the property for its curb appeal. Once you're finished, are you going to be able to market it on HAR or through word of mouth? So definitely curb appeal. And also the developing area. Is there a school coming to that area? Because you really want to try to buy as low as possible before the traffic hits. So really look at the development in that area. Also look at the repair cost. So some things to look at when you walk into a home are the foundation. That can be the most costly item that you have. And also looking at, we have to replace the windows, look at the plumbing, which also can be costly. So really look at the cost of that project so you can see how much your profit margins will be.
I agree.
He agreed. Anything to add? I didn't touch on everything, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think he's
shy. He doesn't talk much.
It's a wide range of things that you look for. But like Dee was saying, it's curb appeal. And then of course, you market your business into certain areas of town that you may be in. Certain areas, you have to make sure that, you look at the neighborhood, you look at the neighbors, all these play a factor of your selling cost for the selling price for the property. And look at the potential in the long run. Do you have any major streets, any new development, as Xavier said? Right now, we purchased a property, and there's a toll bridge being built and a new school being built right by the area. So, you have to look at all those things.
Absolutely. I'd like to ask Xavier to tell a bit of a story. I think it will help answer some of those questions. If you could tell us about, you had purchased a property in Houston after Hurricane Harvey. I think that'll really paint a picture, if we go step by step, of how something like this is possible.
Okay. So what year was that?
2018.
Okay, so
2018.
2018 was the time frame. So when that kind of natural disaster occurs, homeowners, especially if they're elderly, they don't have the time or the energy to reinvest in a property. It's so much easier for them to just maybe buy a new property that's already fixed or move into an apartment. So that's something to keep in mind. So definitely targeting those types of sellers, the elderly crowd. Once we identified that property, because they also sell it at a very low price, below the market if it's not fixed. So that was put on the market for about $115,000. So we purchased that home, and also when you have cash, it goes a lot quicker. Sellers tend to favor cash buyers because they don't have to wait 30 days before the loan closes. So we got that deal pretty quickly. So after we purchased the home, and before that, again, we assessed the property to make sure it was a good buy. We estimated the cost to be about $20,000. So that put us at $135 profit. And then we also did a comp analysis in the area. Houses in that area were selling for about $185. So we knew that if the total cost that were associated with buying the property was $135, we sold at $185, we'll make about a $60,000 profit potentially. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And so that leads me to a couple more questions. So in there you talked about market analysis and then assessing the property. That takes a team of people, right, with information beyond what you guys may have on hand. Can you tell us about the partners that you work with, or the people that are in your circle that you can get information from to find potential properties, to figure out how much these projects are going to cost?
Okay. Another good question. You can add to it too. No, he can add to it. He's an expert, so I want him to add.
You want to on it?
So it does take a team, but my dad has over 15 plus years of experience, so he kind of handles everything. He can look at a property and say yes or no. He's that good, and he underestimates himself. However, my sister, Shanika Beatty, is a realtor, so she also helps us with identifying properties in the area and also, potential development areas. And we also, when we go to evaluate a home, we may bring a contractor with us to give us a quote on how much the repair cost will cost. So you have a realtor, you have a contractor come with you may have a mentor come with you, and that's about it. That's what the team consists of.
Yeah,
for me,
right.
Yeah,
absolutely. She's absolutely right. With myself, I have a team outside from the area, which is my brother, and we also deal with several contractors. We have a team of about 25 contractors that we actually negotiate deals with. If one bid, we just get another one to go out and survey the property for us. Also, we have a team to where they spread out in the community, whether it's a postman, a meter reader, or whomever. We give them referrals to kind of look for properties for us, kind of give us some feedback, and of course, it's a great referral program for them.
Got it. So it sounds like networking and leveraging people and their information, what they have access to, is really important as far as identifying a great property. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. If we've identified a property, maybe it's in the foreclosure, or somebody wants to sell because of a natural disaster, or maybe it's just a fixer-upper that nobody wants to put the time into, and we get a good price on it. How much cash do you think one should have on hand? Is there a minimum amount? Do you feel like normally this is something where you have to collaborate with other people? Tell us a little bit more about that.
If you're a first-time investor, I would suggest partnering with someone to minimize your risk. Because if you put up all your money, and again, this is all a gamble game, and the real estate property doesn't get the returns that you're expecting, then you also lose all your money. So when you partner with other people, let's say 4 people or 3 other people, then your risk is now reduced to 25%. And what was the other part to your question?
I think you answered both of them.
Okay.
I'll take it a step further. Shayla had a question in the group chat about using IRA funds for real estate investing. And I'm not sure if you guys have done that in the past, but if you have experience with that, we'd love to hear about it. Because our next question has to do with that, which is what ways can I finance this investment?
And we have not. Our biggest tool was cash. We always, trust me, if you do not have it, I understand, but we was more successful in just using cash on most of our deals, which that kind of benefited us in the long run. Now, it's nothing against bank loans or anything like that. It's just that it's a must that you be disciplined when getting these loans, because after the loans, you have to pay your bills, of course. You have to get things paid. If no one in that home or renting that home or is not purchased, that loan must be paid. So
with interest. Yeah,
with interest. So, that's our philosophy behind purchasing home. Cash is king.
Mm-hmm. But I do understand if people are not in the position, because I was once there, there are different avenues to finance a home. Research loans, and also partnering with other people to reduce the cost of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have the next question. We talked about you come with the money up front, whether that's with a group of people coming together to mitigate risk or on your own. You've identified a property. You've got contractors to help you understand how much that project is going to cost. You commit, you get the work done. How do we make this profitable? What's the next step?
Okay, of course, everything that we do, we negotiate prices. Even though we normally work with certain contractors, someone come in and get us a better deal.
There's little feedback on the phone.
Okay.
It's a good deal and you minimize costs. But also going into the purchase of the property, you want to always purchase a property way, 60% of the cost of the property. And also, when you budget, have a contingency of about 20% of your budget. Mm-hmm. So you always want to minimize your costs.
And to add to that, also go to open houses in that area to see what buyers are buying. So look at the paint, look at the flooring style to kind of mimic what's trending at that moment so that you can increase the profits on your home. So that's an easy way to do it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. We've got questions from Charles and I believe it's Kay, and they're similar questions. We talked a little bit about estimating the cost of repairs earlier, but how do I find a contractor? How do I know a contractor is going to give me reliable work?
Okay. Well, from my experience, I've been dealing with contractors now for over 15, 20 years. And the way I do, I go by construction properties, I get referrals. Referrals are always great. And in my business, of course, I own a security company. We do a lot of construction with fire alarm and security, and I get feedback off of my contractors. But, you can ride through neighborhoods, you can Google some, but again, referral is probably the best way to go about getting some reliable people.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We talked a little bit about identifying properties. Can you tell us a little bit more? I know we've talked in the past about foreclosure lists or things like that to help find leads to identify these properties.
Real estate investing. It's interesting. I'm not in the mood right now.
I think we've got somebody on the line who's not muted. So I'm going to mute everyone, and then I'll unmute myself and Xavier and Xavier. All right. Can you hear us? Can you hear me, Xavier?
Yes.
Great. Okay. All right. Back in action. So can you talk a little bit about foreclosure lists? That's a question that has come up from our group.
Well, on the foreclosure list, I tend not to concentrate on that too much. I lean on my realtors, and also go to the tax auction. But the foreclosure, I do not lean on it too much, or quick sales or short sales, because the process may be too long. From our experience, we just go to certain realtors and they do the legwork for us a little bit.
Okay, definitely makes sense. Our next question is going to be a combination of a group chat question from our audience and a question that we have from Women Exceeding. So the group chat question is, how do you determine your exit strategy for each project? That sounds like to me, if you hit a certain point, do you have to get out? And our question that complements that is, how much time does an investment project require?
I'll take the second.
Yeah, the exit strategy. That's a big one. So, like I said before, it's a must that you go in with a budget. And when you're doing these projects, you have to itemize all costs. You can't go in blind. And once you go in, make sure your budget is strictly, your budget is dealing with things that creates I'm sorry, I got brain now, but so once you create your budget, you have to make sure that everything is in line, and also you have that contingency of 20% that if you fall short of anything, then we make sure you make the grounds up on your margins. Again, that's my first time doing this.
Okay, you're doing great. And what was the second question?
The second question was, how much time does an investment project require?
So my dad would like to say 3 months. But again, he's an entrepreneur, but someone like myself who's full-time employee, it takes a little bit longer. So I'm working on my second investment property now, and we purchased it in December. So here we are in June. So it's been 6 months, and we're hoping to wrap it up very soon. So it can range, but typically about 90 days. This is your primary focus.
So they have some unforeseen, like in her case, it was the plumbing and the foundation. So they went in blind that this was kind of
with some challenges.
Yeah, some challenges on the foundation. So now that everything is afloat, the concrete is together, now they're moving forward with the framing.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. We talked a little bit about, is there a minimum amount of cash on hand? Let me see if we've got some additional questions from our group chat. Let's see. Is there a percentage of your overall personal assets that you feel comfortable investing in real estate? Do you feel like you have to diversify? If you could talk a little bit about that.
I would say, what's a good percentage I feel comfortable with? Well, one of my favorite quotes is, the higher the risk, the bigger the reward. So obviously if you invest 100% of your assets, then you'll get more. But I'm not a big risk taker sometimes. So I would say I would feel comfortable with investing maybe 50 to 75% of my assets. What would you say?
Well, you would have to evaluate your debt to your cash flow. If your debt exceeds your cash flow, you have to reevaluate that. So I would say, look at your finances and make sure you have a lot of assets versus your liability coming in. If your debt ratio is higher than your cash coming in, then you have to switch it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I'd love to hear a little bit more about an example of a fix and flip, an example of a commercial. I know you've turned some spaces into commercial spaces. If you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay. Well, I gave you guys an example earlier about my first fix and flip. The property that I'm working on now, I'm very excited about the potential of it. So what drew me to this property was the cost of it. So I found this property just by driving, and I saw for sale by owner sign outside. And normally that's really exciting because there's no realtor involved, so there's no commission fees. So you get the house for an even more discounted price. So you're able to negotiate that percentage out, 7% of the cost. So I was really excited about that. And also it was in an area, this is an older home built in the 1970s, but it was in an area where there are bigger homes being built and modernized. So for me, that was a sign that, okay, this has value. So the lot itself has value, not the home, but the lot, the resale value of the lot has value. So I've been working on that since December, and we're looking to make, I would say about 50% profit back on what we invested. Yeah, after it's all done. So I'm really excited about it. And what's an example of a commercial?
Well, we did do a lot of construction and on that home. But example of the construction, you have to go in and evaluate the structure of the home. We're doing a property now over in Malveaux that we was trying to make sure the structure was stable and fixed, but at the end of the day, my brother and I decided to go ahead and remove the structure. It was cheaper for us to remove the structure and rebuild for the liability purposes and get that up and running. So sometimes you just have to look at the whole project and the whole overall picture.
And two more he's not mentioning that I get excited about. So where we're currently located now, it's his office, but it was a residential property that he was able to convert to commercial. And he bought another property down the way that was initially a residential that he turned into an event center.
So, you have to look at the potential in the area. Where my office is now, the people who live there, they realize that it's commercial property. So I got it for a residential cost. And after rezoning everything and fixing it up, the property went up $200,000.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing that. Question from our group chat. Considering the current housing market, what do you consider a successful project? Is there a certain margin that you're looking for in every project, or is it different depending on the strategy you're using?
So that's another good question. I am a fan of buying property and just sitting on it until the housing market goes back up, if it's a really, really good find. But now that we have a property, if I see the potential in the area, currently we have another 13-acre tract that we've been sitting on for a few years, but we've seen the growth in the area, and sometimes you just buy it and kind of sit on it for a little while. And also we approach some properties and just flip them because we see the demand in the area. Over in McGregor, we seen the demand in that area, so we knew that it was a prime area to purchase property. And even though it was a little higher, but the margin that we can put on the property was almost 45%. So you have to just evaluate the area you're looking in and make sure you know the community and research the community of the housing cost.
Thank you for that. Absolutely. That makes great sense. Our next question, what determines, we're going back a little bit to collaborating with others to get a project like this done. What would you say determines a good potential partner when considering partnering on a real estate deal?
Well, first, I think, and, due respect to everyone, but you have to make sure that their credit is on point. That's just me. And their finances as well. Partnering with someone who's not, disciplined can create a problem down the line. But I think, you just, like I do anyone else, I treat everything as business. Whether it's my daughter, my brother, whomever, we have to make sure that the credibility is there and your credit rating is on target, at least a 600 or whatever, 700 if possible. But those are things that I look for in partnering with someone.
Thank you. All valid points. Someone in the audience wanted to know, was there a time that you took a substantial loss? And what was that like? How did you pick up from that and move forward?
Oh, absolutely. That goes back to my first answer to you guys. I did not particularly do an agreement. I invested in a huge restaurant, but it was a verbal agreement, but it wasn't a written agreement. And I think I lost over $100,000 on that deal. So, that's why I think it's very important to know all parties involved in the investment group and make sure you have a legal binding contract. That's very important before you put any financials up.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that story. I have a question about working with contractors. You're watching HGTV, you see sometimes people hire people and they don't necessarily get what they're hoping to out of it. If you could talk a little bit more about a key takeaway that we're going to talk about later, which is you get what you pay for.
Well, we like to make, when we go in and evaluate a home, we see the potential on how we can update the home and see how we can, open walls, do more granite, make sure it's in the budget. But we always do an evaluation of the home.
Yeah, and just to add to that, from my personal experience, so the second property that I'm working on, one of the problems was the foundation. I had to get it corrected because when you go to resell your investment property, the foundation has to be cleared if the buyer is purchasing it or financing it through a loan. So I received 3 quotes from 3 different contractors on the foundation, and we chose to go with the cheapest one, which was $5,000. And he was about $7,000 less expensive than the other 2. And it definitely took a lot longer. And so now looking back, if I could do it all over again, I definitely would have spent more money on the foundation because it would have shortened that process.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. A question for you, Xavier, from an audience member. Outside of your father, do you have other people in your real estate journey that you've leaned on or that is a mentor to you? And if you could tell us about those relationships or other people that you work with.
Absolutely, but I will say like maybe 95% is my dad. 'Cause he's the only person that I just trust, like everything he has to check off on. But I always continue to network.
Well, yeah, absolutely. She, you know, I meet her other investors, and she already run across me prior to making a step forward. But the answer is yes, she do. She have other partners that she do deals with. So do I. But that's why I school in her. Make sure you just, you know, get other investments and just don't stick with just one partner. You know, make sure you get different, you know, partners that you can possibly invest in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I'm going through these questions here. When you've identified a property, how do you determine if the price point is fair? I know you have a ton of market experience where you are, knowing Houston, seeing different communities in Houston, but if somebody maybe is in a city that's new to them, how do we determine if a price point is fair?
Well, again, you know, you just go in and go to the appraisal. You start with appraisals online, kind of see what the selling price is in the neighborhood, you know, kind of do your research.
A really good app to download is HAR app because it gives you a list of the amount that the properties are selling for in that neighborhood and also what properties have sold for in that neighborhood. So that's a great app to download that'll help you. And I use that app. I open it every single time I'm passing by an investment property. I open the app and I see what the comps are in the area using that app.
Great. That was the HAR.
Mm-hmm. Just HAR.
Yeah. And, you know, you get a lot of insight on that, you know, for the houses sold, appraisals, pending homes, anything like that, foreclosures.
Okay, good. Good to know. Charles Walker wants to know, what do you think of the HomeSnap app if you're familiar with it?
Well,
I'm not. I haven't heard of it before. HomeSnap.
I'm not familiar with it.
But I'll definitely look into it.
We've all got a little bit of homework. HomeSnap app. We will look into it. I would love to hear about. Yeah, thanks, Charles. Outside of these ventures, are there any other ventures that you guys are involved in outside of real estate? And if you could share with us those ventures, maybe if they complement or if they're totally independent, definitely share with us those other ventures that you guys work on.
Oh, absolutely. As you see, with excess security, we actually have a security alarm company where we provide commercial and residential fire alarm and security services with low-cost monitoring. Also, we have an event center here in Pearland that we offer to the community. We're currently building indoor-outdoor wedding venue on 10 acres. It's called You want to say the new name?
It's gonna be a big reveal.
The Sun Depot. It means a house depot. That's the new name for the facility. The Sun Depot. It's on 10 acres. It's gonna be an indoor-outdoor wedding facility with 3 structures on the site. Okay.
We also have a lawn care service.
Yes, we also do commercial lawn care. Currently, we're doing approximately, 15 schools and surrounding commercial properties in Petalland area.
Thank you for sharing that. One thing I want to add is, when talking to the two of them, this father-daughter duo, and you hear the stories about what they're doing and their ventures, it's really quite genius. They're creating a wedding venue. They said, why would we pay someone else to have a wedding there when we can create our own and create generations of wealth from a venue? So instead of money going out, it's really money that's going to be coming in. And so I think having that mindset has really helped you guys be as great as you are. And I think that's something that we can all look to try to emulate. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Really quickly, I'm going to go ahead, Xavier.
No, as you guys know, my daughter's getting married here next year. So that was part of the idea of doing the indoor-outdoor wedding venue. She wants to get married here and have more of a country feel by the end of the city. So that's our thing. We're doing like a colonial style wedding venue structure there.
Absolutely. Build your own wedding venue and then rent it out to other people and make money instead of spending money. It's genius.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to launch our poll for our audience. So if our audience members could just take a moment to take this poll so that we have a better understanding of who our listeners are, to make sure that we are providing you the best information that we possibly can. So that poll should be running and available to the group. In the chat, Charles chimed in. He let us know that the HomeSnap app is an app where you can take a picture of a house and it will give you the value of the home from HCAD.
I'm sorry, say it again. I'm sorry.
So HomeSnap is an app that you can take a photo of a house and it will give you the home value from HCAD, which I'm assuming is Harris County.
That's
another. Go ahead.
Oh, that's great.
Interesting. We'll definitely look into it.
I know. I'm going to look into it too. I'm not even in Houston. Our next question, are all of your businesses individual businesses? Do you hold them under a holding company? Tell us a little bit more about that. And if so, how is this part of your path to generational wealth? If you could tell us that story.
Well, no, they're not all in the holding. I have different partners. So my principal company is Excess Services. So I have some companies under there, and also I have outside ventures with other investors.
Okay, great. If you could tell us from a father's perspective, you were in the real estate game, among many other things, a true entrepreneur, and your daughter said, okay, I think I'm interested in this. Tell us about what that was like for you and how you encouraged her and how exciting, that is as a father to have, children that want to carry on that legacy.
Well, and a little bit about the background. I don't know if she told you guys, but, we came from a huge family where it was single. I had a single parent, with 8 boys. So we was destined to get out the neighborhood and make something of ourselves. And she seen the path that I was trying to take. And I chose not to have her go through some of the things that I went through, even though it was a good struggle. But I wanted her to succeed with kind of worry-free problems. But to answer your question, after I showed her one of the checks, to change her mind.
I think that definitely helps. Do you, from your perspective, you watch your dad do these things. Tell us a little bit about what that was like for you and when you decided you were going to take that leap
Okay. Definitely, as you guys can, well, some people may know, my dad is the sweetest guy to his daughters that you'll ever see. I've never heard him say no. But with that, I didn't want to take advantage of him. So I gave you guys an example of how I made sure I saved my own money before I even came to him and said, hey, Daddy, I'm ready. I want him to take our partnership seriously by putting up my own money so that he can understand, like, hey, I'm serious and I want to learn. I want to be coachable, just to take that father-daughter, out of it. I wanted it to be a true business partner with him.
Okay, thank you. So I want to ask you another question. This webinar is about debt-free real estate investment, and we talked about either having cash on hand or putting cash together with others. But I think debt-free is a lifestyle for you, if I'm correct. So if you could tell us a little bit about that lifestyle, so we can learn from you, we'd appreciate that.
Most definitely. I set this goal maybe when I graduated college. I got super tired of the Sally Mae calling my phone every single month. I felt like I was working for them more so for myself. And when I made my final payment, which was 3 years ago, it was the best day of my life because I went to work differently. I no longer felt like I had to wake up and go to work to pay bills. Now I was waking up, going to work for fun in a sense, not having like huge financial obligations. And that whole process was interesting because it really taught me what was most important in life and what was needed and what was a want. For example, even though I can afford it, I wasn't buying like big name brand clothes or, trying to stunt on my friends and things like that. So I definitely had to make some sacrifices and scale back a lot. So it's the best, and now still being debt free is one of the best feelings because I have more control over my life. I'm not confined to a job, and I get to make different business decisions to continue to grow.
Thank you for sharing that. What are some of the ways, if you could share with us, you said it took a lot of discipline. Were there ways that you saved? Were there budgeting things? Because at this time, correct me if I'm wrong, at this time you didn't own any income properties yet, right?
Mm-hmm. No.
So it was just your 9-to-5 job.
Yes. So
tell us about that. How do you do that? That's the hard.
So the biggest expenses that a person incurs, you have your rent or your mortgage, you have a car note, and maybe you have some credit card bills. So let's say those three. So the first thing I did was just make sure I had 0 credit card bills. I paid everything with my debit card. If I could not afford it, that means I didn't need it at that time. So that was the first thing. Also, the next biggest expense is a car note. With the job that I have, they give us company cards. So I've never had a car note, and I never purchased an additional car. So that was another thing that I saved on. And the third thing is rent or mortgage. When I moved back to Houston, my dad was so nice enough to let me move in with him so that I could save, and he didn't charge me rent or anything because he knew my vision that I had. So that was another way that I was able to save with those 3 major expenses, or alleviate those 3 major expenses.
Thank you. Thank you for painting that picture for us. So to go back to the debt-free real estate, now you both have portfolios of income-producing properties. Are there some properties that you feel are more profitable than others? Do you prefer to have more commercial properties in your portfolio or more residential properties? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, absolutely. Right now, when I first started the venture of investment in real estate, I was going to strictly residential, in which currently we own a few properties, and the income is good because it's debt free. Anything that we purchased in the past, of course, was cash bills. So now we lean more toward commercial lease. It's more lucrative, and it's a little bit more money but right now we lean into more commercial base and more of a lifestyle of the wedding being a higher cost of residuals.
Mm-hmm. How do you find tenants for these commercial spaces? What is that experience like?
Well, again, it goes back to they have different, commercial realtors. We have, people that actually go out and seek tenants for us. Mainly what my brother and I did, we'll build a structure and then lean on some of the professionals, if you would say, to recruit the tenants.
Got it. Thank you. Question from I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we just, lean on the professionals to, do that for us. That's all I was saying. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you guys have figured out what pieces you kind of keep in hand and then what cards you deal out to others to help fulfill what you need to do, which goes back to what we talked about earlier about building a team around you. So I appreciate that. A question from the audience. We talked about, you shared with us that you had at one point $100,000 loss, which I mean is just gut-wrenching to hear. Have you had any more recent business setbacks? And if so, how do you recover from that?
Well, again, you go in business. Again, like Dee was saying, there's a chance that we all take. And my philosophy, and I teach it to my daughters just as well, everything that we do is a learning, is an opportunity to do better. So that just was an opportunity to not make that mistake again. Mm-hmm. So I was fortunate to have the money and make more money afterwards by my mistake. But yes, it did put a setback, for a little while, but the experience, you can't imagine how much more I made from that experience. And and the other loss that I may have had, but from that experience, I don't think it was that significant. Mm-hmm. The other experience was maybe a $20,000 loss, which, that's just a matter of, again, doing business with the wrong people.
Right. Something that I believe in is, nobody can take your experience away from you, good or bad. So you can always learn from it.
Yes.
Stronger storms make us better sailors. So thank you for sharing that story. So let me ask you this. What is next for you two?
Her wedding.
He is so ready to walk down the aisle, y'all. Like, he is excited.
Yeah. Well, that's something that we are considering. Right now, we're more focusing on the outdoor-indoor wedding facility, which Xavier and my niece will actually manage once my brother and I get it all together. So that's taking a big task on us, So we kind of in that design, along with a couple of construction projects that we're currently doing. So once we get past that, by the end of the year, next year, we probably start something else.
And for myself, I would love to start venturing off in Airbnb. Like my dad mentioned, we recently purchased 10 acres of land, and I feel like that'd be a good opportunity to put some rental properties on that property. So, Airbnbs for myself.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think Airbnb is, that's definitely a good way to go. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. So thank you for sharing that. I am going to have Xavier walk us through some key takeaways from today. And then we are going to take a moment to hear about your businesses so that we can support you, whether we're in Houston or from afar. And then we'll wrap up with any additional questions.
Okay.
I'll read them to you, Xavier.
Okay. Well,
you got it?
I got it. Some key takeaways for you guys. You get what you pay for. Also, research. They'll save you a lot of money and time. Network is key. And also be patient. Don't be in a hurry to make a sale. Make sure you produce great quality of work so that it does not affect your brand.
Thank you for that. We have some of their businesses here and ways for us to support them. If you could run us through these, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, I'll let my dad take over.
Okay. The first is Excess Security Services. Well, we provide, again, residential and commercial security alarm and fire alarm systems with low monitoring. The next is Excess Event Center. This is a smaller venue on 2 acres, but it holds about approximately 80 people, which includes a basketball court, a volleyball court, a gazebo outside on 2 acres. It's good for, small weddings, bridal showers, or graduation parties, but it's a great looking property. And coming soon, that's the Sunday Grove. That's the one that's on 10 acres. That's going to be the major event. We will have three structures on it that will accommodate anything that you may do, whether it's weddings, family reunions, small parties, but anything that you may have, we would accommodate on that property. Okay.
Great. So many ways for us to support you, especially for our audience members in Houston. Definitely check them out and support. I want to open it up if there's any additional questions. This is actually a property here that Xavier worked on. So we appreciate her sharing that photo with us. Any additional questions, go ahead and drop them in the group chat. If you don't have additional questions, I will say for more information about Women Exceeding, you can always go to our website, which is womenexceeding.com. You will be able to find the recording from today on our website in the near future, including information about Xavier and Xavier. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter at Women Exceeding, or on Facebook.com at facebook.com/Women Exceeding. I don't have any additional questions from the group chat, so I will thank you all for joining us this evening. We look forward to having you at our next webinar. And thank you so much to our audience members. We're going to give you 10 minutes back to your evening tonight. So I hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Go.
Thank you.
Warrior.
Go Warriors! Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.